Well, hello. Welcome to today's diary reading. We're starting a new one today. And I am struggling. My hair is too short to do these hairstyles, and I am trying to pat it out. And one time, I got it really nice one time a couple months ago when it was longer. I had to keep working on this because I love the Gibson girl hairdo, but I don't quite have the hair for it. So right now I look in the mirror and I see Cinderella's stepmother. That's what I see in the mirror, and not a cute Gibson girl. But you know, this is by Gibson Girl clothing company in Ukraine, if you're interested, as is my skirt, my pants skirt. Although with the corset I've got on, I can't button it up all the way. I've got to figure this out, because my skirts don't fit on top of the corsets I have. So hopefully I can get one custom made at some point. That will, I don't know. I can go in a little more in the waist there. I don't know. We got to figure it out, because I can't wear these things without with a corset. It's super annoying because you need to wear a corset with it. I should have gotten a larger size. Oh well, now I know. Anyway, today's diary is an interesting one. It was written in 1902 in a little pocket notebook. That looks kind of familiar. They seem to like that font, that type for a while. I have some other diaries that are very similar. Like the last one's Dorothy's, I think one of hers, or Edith's, I don't know. Anyway, 1902. We are in 1902. So I did my best to get in the spirit here. I don't have an outfit for every year of the century, sorry. This was an odd one. I found it on eBay. I think it was like $100 to just buy it now, and I thought it was so bizarre. I was so curious that I couldn't resist, so I got it. Thought I'd solve this mystery. It's written in the third person, and the seller and I at first, you couldn't quite decide if this was like a fictional story someone was writing or what was going on. I eventually did figure out what was going on, and it is not a fictional story. I don't want to give away too much in our first episode. I want you to kind of, join me on this adventure. What are we going to call it? I did not plan ahead. I never script these things. So I'm going to say very little in the beginning. I don't actually know a lot about the woman. I've been learning a bit more, but I mean, I don't have a lot to tell you. Sneezing fit, sorry. I don't have a lot to tell you about her, especially with her life up to this point. I know a couple things that happened after the diary was written, so we will discuss that later. I kind of want to keep you in suspense, and you can take guesses as to I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I really wish I had more of her diaries. I do wonder where these things get to, but we have this one, so I will begin by telling you a little bit, like what I know, which isn't much, and then going over the year 1902. What happened this year? My notes are over there, so I need to go get them. My nose is still pretty runny. This is really annoying. I don't have a cold. It just seems persistent. Maybe it's allergies to something in the house. I don't know. So I might have to cut when I sneeze. Like, I think I'm going to sneeze now. I hate it when I'm giving myself more to edit. I'll try not to. Anyway, the name of the woman who wrote this diary was Alice Okey. She was born December 27th, 1863. Darn it, I didn't write down the math. 1 second, let's figure out how old she was. Okay, so she would have been about 39. She 38. I think she might have been 38 when she started that. So she's a single woman. and it appears that she might be boarding somewhere in this town and has a job as a teacher. I don't know how long she's been there. I don't know how long she's been teaching. There are a lot of questions. I have not discovered anything about her pre-1902 life yet, but there's still time, I guess. And she died October 23rd, 1947. I can't do math right now. No more math. So, I know her father and mother's name, William Okey and Catherine Campbell. And her father was born in England in 1838, and they moved to Illinois at some point. I am not sure when. Her mother might have been born in the U.S. I know she mentions when they got married. I don't have that noted down. All right, so let's just run over some things that happened in 1902 so you can, make the, what do you say? Set the stage? We'll set the stage. So January 1st, Nathan Stubblefield makes first public demonstration of radio, Pennsylvania. January 4th, the French Panama Canal Company offers to sell its rights to build a canal to the U.S. for $40 million, tipping the balance away from those favoring a canal through Nicaragua. January 8th, New York State Assemblyman France G. Landon gets a bill passed to criminalize men turning around on a street and looking at a woman in that way. I had to look that up. So, yeah, he introduced a bill that would criminalize people who had drank too much and were trying too hard to get women to look their way. As the New York Morning Telegraph reported at the time, offenders could be arrested and fined up to $500. As the proposed bill stated, any person who is intoxicated in a public place or who shall by any offensive or disorderly act or language annoy or interfere with any person or persons in any place or with the passengers of any public stage, railroad car, or ferry boat, or who shall disturb or offend the occupants of such conveyance by any disorderly act or language or display, although such conduct may not amount to an assault or battery, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. I don't know how long this law was in effect. I am actually curious about that. I guess it was controversial. Although I don't know, I'm kind of in favor of that. Maybe it would dissuade some unruly conduct, and we have such harassment, of women. So I don't know. Kind of hope that is still the case, but who knows? Well, someone knows, but not me. March 10th, a United States Court of Appeals rules that Thomas Edison did not invent the movie camera. April 2nd, Electric Theater, the first full-time movie theater in the United States, opens in Los Angeles, California. April 14th, James Cash Penney opens his first store, the Golden Rule Store, in Kemmerer, Wyoming. And I forgot to look up the Golden Rule Store because I was wondering why it was called that. Hopefully I will find that answer and put it over there. But James Cash Penney. Does it ring any bells, my American friends? J.C. Penney? Anyway, he was an American businessman and entrepreneur known for founding the J.C. Penney department store chain in 1902. Penney initially worked in a store himself and then bought a partnership in a new store that his employers were opening. When they dissolved their partnership, he took over the total of 3 stores thus far. From there, Penney's interests quickly expanded, with a total of 34 stores by 1912. The chain continued to expand nationwide and reached a total of 120 stores in 1920. By 1929, it would reach 1,400 stores. While the stock market crash of 1929 and ensuing Great Depression almost ruined Penney personally, the company survived. Penney subsequently let go of the reins and allowed others to take over daily operating management. I gotta like spell check this thing. I'm taking it off a website on this day, whatever. I use that for all of them. But you know what? In 1902, whoever put this together, really, I don't know if English is their first language or no one edited this, because there are some mistakes. Oh my gosh, my nose is gonna be so pink. I just have to keep wiping my nose. I turned on my heater to heat up the room beforehand, nice and toasty warm, and I don't know, I'm just runny nose. Okay, April 20th. Marie and Pierre Curie isolate the radioactive compound radium chloride. May 8th, Mount Pelée on the French overseas island of Martinique erupts, wiping out the city of Saint-Pierre, killing 30,000 and leaving only 2 survivors. That's crazy. May 17th, Greek archaeologist Valerios Stais, I think, discovers the Antikythera. Oh, I don't know how to say this. Antikythera. I don't know. Mechanism. An ancient mechanical analog computer. I'm having difficulty today. So this thing is an ancient Greek hand-powered model of the solar system, described as the oldest known example of an analog computer used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses decades in advance. It could also be used to track the 4-year cycle of athletic games, which was similar to an Olympiad, the cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. The instrument is believed to have been designed and constructed by Hellenistic scientists and been dated to about 87 BC, between 150 and 100 BC, or 205 BC. It must have been constructed before the shipwreck. I didn't mention that. It was found on a shipwreck, which has been dated by multiple lines of evidence to approximately 70 to 60 BC. So, June 16th, The Wizard of Oz musical first opens in Chicago, Illinois. June 24th, Target Corporation is founded by American businessman George Dayton as Goodfellow Dry Goods in Minneapolis. Target's pretty old. I had no idea. June 28th, U.S. buys concession to build Panama Canal from French for $40 million. August 9th, Edward VII of Great Britain crowned King of the United Kingdom and the British Dominions, succeeding his mother, Queen Victoria. November 18th, Brooklyn toymaker Morris Mitchton names the teddy bear after U.S. President Teddy Roosevelt. So that's an overview of 1902 before we get into this. All right, well then, we shall take a sip of tea and then begin reading Alice's odd diary. All right, here we go. We're diving into one of the weirdest diaries I own. You'll probably understand at some point. Let's get started. 11th week. What could that mean? November 11th, 1902, Monday morning. She awakens under the master's roof and once more breakfasts at the master's table. She notes that he takes pains to go into his room and slip on his coat, and she wonders if this may be a little compliment to her or simply for his own comfort. While at breakfast, he speaks of lack of thoroughness in school training. For instance, is that Wednesday? No. For instance, maybe it's a name, I'm not sure. Does not know difference between true and bank discount. Neither do I. Cannot work an example in cube root, etc. She remarks that she does not think it matters so much about the cube root. It is a long rule and seldom used and can be looked up when occasion requires. Is that so? Suppose I want to know the capacity in bushels. of a crib so many feet long, so many feet wide and high. I don't want to have to run to the house and get out an arith dot to find the rule. I want to be able to take a little block and work it out at once. She. Well, I guess that's so. I am convinced, Mr. W. He does not say anything, but she can see his eyes flash under their drooped lids, and a tiny pleased smile just touch his lips. And then, like in parentheses, memo, I think. Nevertheless, the problem just cited does not call for rule in cube root, but is worked by rules for measurement and capacity in compound numbers. End quote, or end parentheses. He speaks further and says he remembers her school as it used to be some years ago when Albert Savage, in parentheses, you met him last winter, did you not? She, yes. End parentheses. And those went to school there, and wishes they could see the difference between the school as it was then and the quiet, orderly school of today. The scholars all busy about their lessons. In parentheses. I presume you keep them busy, do you not? She, yes. End parentheses. I wish they could just see that. She does not reply except by a smile, but the words are sweet to her. He certainly understands a schoolma'am's weakness for praise. After breakfast, he first hitches up his own team for husking, and then waters and hitches up her old nag for her. When he comes in to say goodbye, he remarks that he has enjoyed her visit very much. In regard to a Saturday for a search after magazine article about Custer's last fight for her pupils. I will designate a Saturday when I will be at home, for if you came unexpectedly, I might be away or something. She, well, we will make it agreeable to suit your convenience. He, I shall look forward to that Saturday then. In parentheses, this speech surprises her, and she thinks by the merry look in his eyes that he knows it does. End parentheses. You will find your horse hitched up out there, and now I'll say goodbye and go to my work. He turns to the door as he speaks, so she simply says goodbye, and he goes. Before I go on, I forgot, I do have 2 pictures of her. They are not from this year. One is older and one is newer. I think one is from the 1890s. I'll put that over here because that's going to look most like her, so you have a visual of who's writing this, who's speaking. And then the older picture of her we'll share at the end. That was, I think, from 1930s. So I don't know, maybe next time I'll try to do my hair like her. No, I was trying to go for the more Edwardian look here, but I don't think I can look like her if I tried. But okay. Next entry, Tuesday evening. Was it the master she heard calling the cattle home? She thinks it was. Wednesday evening. On Cemetery Hill they met. She, good evening, Mr. W. He bows and lifts hat. She, are you in the sale bill business now? He, yes. Wish you had stopped and done my chores for me. She, apropos of sale bills. That's dreary work, ain't it? No reply. Thursday evening at B's surprise party. Mr. B, after playing something for a while, gets up a game of cards in which he and she are invited to join. He, I should like to teach Miss O how to play cards. That's Alice Okey. I was so pleased to be able to teach her about that possum the other day. She, yes, I think I learned that lesson pretty well. When they seat themselves, there is a vacant chair near her, and she taps it lightly with her finger and says to him, "Come, Mr. W." And rather to her surprise, he comes and seats himself, saying, "Shall I sit in this chair?" Then they play. I Doubt It and Menagerie, games I don't know. A whole long evening of delight for her because spent near him. It is so much better than she hoped, for she had told herself that he would want to play with others tonight, and that he must not be greedy or disappointed, or that she must not be greedy or disappointed about it, but just be glad to see him there and happily passing the time away. They even sat supper near each other, and then she clears up the cards and relieves him of the table, saying, "Shan't I take this?" He, "Thank you, Miss O." When it is time to go, Mrs. C, I think, comes in with his invitation for her and Mrs. B to ride with him. In parentheses, another surprise, but just like his thoughtfulness, just like his thoughtfulness. She spells it Thot, and then it was broken in half on the next line. Thoughtfulness. And parentheses, he overtakes them just a few steps from the gate and says, "I thought," again spelled Thot, "I thought you ladies were going to ride." He gets out and says for her and Mrs. B to ride while he walks with Mr. B, so she once more has the pleasure of driving the master's horse, for the last time probably. Poor Bonnie, how can he bear to sell his wife's pet? Friday morning, he passes B's as she is hitching up. She waves hand and bows. He lifts hat and bows. He stops to tack up sail bill at corner and remarks that she can read that every night and morning now. Wonder what was on the sail bill. I don't know. Oh wait, that's right. I think he's having a sale of his farm or something. But I don't know if this is about that or if this is actually like another paying job he's got. I forget now. I don't know if they are related. She, I don't want to read it. I don't like to see it. It must be about the sale of his farm. He, why? She, 'cause it looks like you're going away. It looks like the beginning of the end, and I don't like to see it. He, well, I heard Stimson say that the neighbors all offered to haul a load for him so as to get him out of the neighborhood, and I am glad if you do not all want to get rid of me. She, oh, I guess none of us want to see you go. He gets in buggy. She, you have a dreary day for your long trip? He, yes. Later at schoolhouse. He says, can I tack a bill up on this tree? She, yes. He, you can read this every recess now. She, I just told you that I don't want to see it. It's not good reading. His face looks serious, but he says nothing. He speaks of Emile working too hard and using tobacco. Says he has a good mind to learn to smoke. The Reverend Knox, Episcopalian minister, has offered to give him a few lessons. He says Mrs. B has headache and that his eyes pain him, and I thought that maybe yours did too. She, oh, my eyes are all right this morning. Wish somebody would visit my school this afternoon so as to keep me awake. Hint, hint. He, well, it almost makes me want to be a school teacher again, to see you standing there with so many smart-looking little ones round you. She, I enjoy it. Then they turn and drive away. 5 meetings! a rich week. Yes. Somebody's got a crush. Just, this has to be like the 11th week that she's known him or something. I'm so curious what this means. Like why she's counting weeks, and where are the rest of these diaries? Where are they? Oh my goodness. I hope if I keep this up over the years, you know, someday the others come to me. Okay, 12th week now. Monday morning, the master comes out of the north side road gate, seated on side of lumber wagon behind the bay, sorrel, and gray. Is it McMahon, the renter who is driving? Oh my gosh, I just made a connection here and had to sniffle. So sorry about that. There's gonna be some random cuts in here where I just have to sniffle or sneeze or blow my nose. Ugh, my hair is a mess. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so one of the articles I found, I guess I'll just say this now because I guess it's relevant. There was an article in 1912, and there must have been some earlier ones too, but this is the one that popped up. This renter was accused of murder in 1908 or 1909. I made some notes because the article is so difficult to read. Like I downloaded it from Ancestry and now my account has expired and I'm trying to read it on the computer and it's very tiny print. So I just took some notes. But anyway, Alice was a witness, as was Mr. Whiting, this guy she's in love with. So that connects it there for me. Okay. So this guy, Mahone, I'm going to say Mahone, in 1912, the title was McMahon Again Freed by Supreme Court. Opinion is handed down last Thursday afternoon by that body, reversing the decision and granting him a new trial. And I made some spelling errors. My P key is not working right, so but that had nothing to do with that. Anyway, the important witnesses, Miss Alice Okey, Mr. Whiting, Miss Macy Hamrick, and James Curran are all criticized. So I guess this was the second time that this guy had been sent back for a new trial. He was convicted of the murder of Mary Metrick. It's hard to read these names. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. And pixelated. A domestic employed in the McMahon household. Oh my gosh, so many. I did this while I was reading and typing. So, a domestic employed in his household in 1909. So this time the jury found him guilty of the crime, fixed his punishment at 24 years in the penitentiary. He was later released under a $15,000 bond, and the case was again brought up for trial last October. He was convicted and given a 15-year sentence in the penitentiary. Upon the application of his chief counsel, Frank Quinn, he was again released on a $12,000 bond, and since that time he's been at the home of his parents in Tiskilwa. Hope I say that right. This is, I think, where this is taking place, Tiskilwa. So I have a little bit of details about the case. I wish I could have found an earlier article. But this girl, Mary Hetrick or Metrick, died at about 7 o'clock Saturday morning, December 5th, 1908, from the effects of strychnine taken by her a few minutes earlier. Being about 8 months gone, her condition was bound soon to become known, though then suspected by no one. So she hid it well. The defendant and his wife had been at a party the night before, which they did not leave until after midnight. In the morning, Mary got up first. There's a missing P. And soon after, the defendant got up and went out to the barn to work, taking his 6-year-old boy with him. He stopped in the kitchen to put on his cap and shoes. Within a half hour, his wife came to call him. He returned to the kitchen to find Mary lying on the floor in convulsions, and in 10 or 15 minutes more, she was dead. there was strychnine in the pantry. It had been there for years, and she had access to it. So there's a big hole in the paper as well, so part of the story is missing, even though I struggled to read anyway. But there was a story about Mary and another girl. I think they were both employed there. I don't know if they were related, because it's hard to read these last names. I don't know. But anyway, they were together, and something suspicious like happened at night with Mahoon. But in the morning, these girls were walking to school, and the dog followed them. So Mary took the dog back to the house. But then she didn't show up back at school for like another 2 hours. And Miss Okey, Alice, I think maybe was her teacher or a witness there. I'm not sure what kind of school this is, if there are multiple classrooms. But she said she looked upset and was crying, like, or, flushed and upset. So this is like when they think maybe something happened. And Alice's witness statement, which they're not putting a lot of stock in, was at another time in the same month of February when Miss Okey was at the defendant's house. Mary came home from school sick, threw herself on the couch and complained of her head. In a few minutes, the defendant, coming in, said, "Hello, what's the matter with you?" His wife looked at him darkly and said, "Yes, you, I guess. You." And he eyed his wife with a very dark look, but said nothing. But this article was kind of about how these witness testimonies aren't being taken seriously. So, I mean, probably a good thing. And I don't know what happened with this, or if he actually did it or not. She could have killed herself, or he could have done it. So that's that. That's his renter. All right. So we'll keep that in mind. So in 10 years, not 10 years, 6 years, he runs into this problem. Poor guy if he's innocent, though. Poor guy, like in and out of jail and stuff. So yes, is it Mr. Mahone? Sorry, the renter who is driving. She bows and said, "Good morning, Mr. W." He lifts hat and replies, "Good morning, Miss O." Emile's dog follows her to school that day, so she has to stay at the master's in the evening to return the animal to his owners. I wonder what this guy's first name is. Is that Emile? Now I have to look that up. I don't know if I can, now that I don't have Ancestry. It might be his dog. They are all seated at supper, Emile near the door, his wife opposite, and Mr. W in the center. After some conversation about the dog, she leans her face against the doorframe and says, "Good evening, Mr. W." He, "I said good evening once." She, "Did you? I was so busy talking, I didn't notice it." He, I thought, gosh, this really confuses me. I think it's that and it's thought. Although she spells it with like a little, what's that called? That's not a hyphen. It's a, I thought maybe you were going to cut my acquaintance. She, "Oh, I guess I wouldn't do that." He, "It's pretty chilly riding, isn't it?" She, "Oh, I don't mind it." He, "I was out tacking up bills this afternoon, and I thought it was pretty chilly." She, "Well, that's pretty chilly work, I should think. You have to tack the bills up barehanded, I suppose." He, "Yes." She, "Well, that makes a difference, and stopping so often, too." He, "Well, I think a person as thin as I am gets chilled through pretty easy anyway. Then she asks him if he will loan her a volume maybe of his student encyclopedia, a volume with the letter M in it. He says, "I'll be glad to, both volumes if you want them," and rises and quickly brings it to her. She, "Thank you, I'll return it in a few days." Then a few words about their Sunday visit to Mrs. K's folks, and Emile comes from tying up the dog, so she says good night to you and goes. As she goes through the yard, the master calls, Mrs. O, or Miss O. She. What? He. Is your horse out there? She. Yes, she is, if she didn't walk away. He. Oh, all right then. I didn't know about the gate is all. And that is the last sound of the dear voice that she hears. Wednesday morning. Is it the master and Emile who are at work out in the yard between the house and the barn? She thinks it is, but cannot be certain. Getting ready for the sale, she supposes. Thursday is Thanksgiving Day, and she remembers how 1 year ago today we were all at Mrs. B's for dinner. She remembers how he came there with his cherished wife at his side, remembers the bright-eyed, sweet, pale face that lay on the couch afterward, remembers how kindly the wife talked to her, how weak she was and how easily she tired, and the pitiful racking cough that was to be her doom, and which made her quiver with pain and dread every time she heard it, knowing so well what it meant. She knows that for him this day has its sad memories of the past, its pain for which there is no salve, save God's own comfort, if he will only open his heart to receive it. Just to think that only 1 short year ago he had his wife at his side, and now she sleeps under the sod. It does not seem possible. Her heart aches for him, and all day her thoughts linger with him and turn to him in the intervals of the conversation. She is glad he did not have to go to Mrs. B's again, or Mr. B's, I'm not sure, this year, but went to Princeton instead, and she hopes that he had a pleasant day there, in spite of the sadness he had to carry with him. Friday evening she returns his encyclopedia. When she knocks, 'tis the master himself in his blue shirt sleeves that opens the door and says, "Good evening, Miss O." It must be Mr. B, I think. She's just very frilly with her M. She. Good evening. Here is your book, and I am ever so much obliged to you for it. He. You are welcome, I'm sure. Oops, little articles. She speaks to Mrs. K, who explains that she didn't come to the school exercises of Wednesday because she had bread to bake. She. Well, I'm glad 'twas nothing more serious that kept you away. Then, it's late and I must hasten, so good night. She hears the master's low-voiced good night, and as she turns away he says, "It must be very cold riding tonight." She. Yes, it's cold tonight, and turns from the warmth and light of the picture of the master framed in his own doorway to the cold darkness and wind without. She thinks of the sale to be there on the morrow, and how it is to be but little more than a month now, till the master leaves us to go on his California trip. How she dreads for the time to come. Saturday is the eventful sale day. It begins with rain and snow. It weeps tears, she thinks, for the master's broken home and because of his going away. But about 11 a.m. it clears away, and the bright sun comes out. So it is quite a pleasant day after all, and she is glad for his sake that it is so. In the evening, while she is buying school books at Mr. Kellog's, I think, the street door opens, and in walks the master. She had no thought of its being him, but how good it is to see the dear face once more. She had been longing for this, but had scarcely dared to hope for it. He bows, hastily touches his hat, and says, "Good evening, Miss O." She. Good evening, Mr. O. Mr. W, sorry. She longs to ask him how the sale went, but dares not for fear of annoying him, so remains silent. In a moment she hears Mr. Kellogg say, "How do you do, Mr. W?" And he replies, "Well, this has been a disagreeable day with a pleasant termination." And then she goes. A little later she sees him and Emile out among the buggies near Keighley's, I think. They seem to be searching for something, and she hears him say, "I wonder if it was put in the back of one of these other buggies." 4 meetings. So I think I will read these little articles and then call it a day. So this is about the public sale. The undersigned, having rented his farm, will sell at his place 1 mile west of Tuskilwa on the Providence Road on Saturday, November 29th, 1902, commencing at 10 a.m., 10 head of horses, 15 head of cattle, 600 bushels corn in crib, 20 tons clover hay in barn, a lot of wheat straw in shed, 1 stack of rye straw, 40 bushels rye, 12 bushels domino apples, and a lot of farm implements. Lunch stand on grounds. Usual terms 12 months' time. C.C. Plumley, auction, W.M. Rapine, clerk, H.L. Whiting. And these two. The chief was misinformed last week and printed the name of W.C. Hobbit? I don't know. I don't know what this is. Hoblit. As superintendent of Mount Bloom Cemetery, we reprint the list of officers as follows. President W.C. Hoblit, Secretary and Treasurer G.C. Kellogg, Trustees A.N. Stevens, H.L. Whiting, S.G. Silverhill, something, B.F. Maycox. Okay. This one is, again, just another mention of him. The annual meeting of Mount Bloom Cemetery Association held last Saturday. The following were elected. He was elected a trustee of the Mount Bloom Cemetery Association. Fancy. All right, so we're going to end it there for today. Make sure to put a bookmark in there. We will start on the 13th week next time. But yeah, I think you can see why I thought that was a curious diary. Very different from all the others that I've read so far. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. I know when I started realizing it was autobiographical, I started thinking, oh, I wonder how that ended. Did they end up as a couple, or did he move to California? We will find out. I mean, yeah, we'll find out. There's a large gap between 1902 and the next news I have on Alice, but yeah. Maybe someday we'll find her other diaries too, who knows. All right, so that's it for today. This very strange diary reading has just begun. If you're interested in following along with Alice and I, here's how it works if you're new here. If you've noticed, I post the first reading publicly on YouTube for each diary, and then for the rest of it, they're in a private group on buymeacoffee.com, and the link will be down below in the description. I do this because diaries are expensive and this is time consuming, and as much as I love doing it, I'm trying to find a way to help fund the purchase of the diaries, because the idea is to get them back to their families as well. And although so far, with how many have I returned, 3 or 4, the families do contribute something towards them. It doesn't always cover the cost of the diary if it's a more expensive one, and I don't want to make them feel obligated to pay for them. So by putting them in the membership site, it's kind of my way of raising funds so that I can more easily offer to just send them back to the families when I find them. So you can head over there to watch the rest of this series or any of the rest of the diaries I've read so far. I post weekly at the moment. That's about as fast as I can get them out. And we've got plenty to do over there, and plenty more to come. I've got a whole drawer full of diaries. So that's how that works. I would love to see you over there. If you know anyone else who might be interested, you can send them over there. And I guess that's about it for today. We will pick up where we left off on week 13 over at the Diary Club. I still don't know what to call it. Just call it the Diary Club. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by. I'd love to hear your thoughts below. If you find out anything about Alice, like, don't give it away. Don't give it away for everyone else. You can contact me directly. You can leave your theories below if you want. All right. I'll see you next time. Bye.